Listen, you smell something?
Human emotions are materializing in the form of a viscous psychoreactive plasm with explosive supernormal potential.
What a discovery, a psychoreactive substance.
Do you know what this equipment is used for?
Boggle or Super Mario Brothers?
We'll have fun!
Yeah! They're still doing it. Really quite good work there.
My friend, don't be a jerk.
We've got no choice. Call the Ghostbusters.
Super Jackpot!
Welcome to Extraplasm Podcast. It's the only podcast on the internet that thinks that a unique way to market Ghostbusters Frozen Empire would have been to partner up with HVAC companies across North America to bring the death chill to American homes and fight the heat wave. I'm your host, Jim Maritato, aka Vink Maniac on the internet, and joining me on the podcast this week as one of our best friends, one of the greatest people to come on Extraplasm and a regular, a man who's probably feeling a little bit cooler than we are in California or anywhere else in the United States given the heat wave going on because he's in the Great White North. Jason Fitzsimmons of Ghostbusters News is joining us. Jason, how are you doing?
Well, I mean, considering I'm not in the midst of a heat wave, your joke kind of went over my head. I'm kind of lost a little bit, but I'm doing just swell. I'm doing great.
Well, look, you're in Canada where you guys are building igloos year round from how I understand things. Like, I think that ice hockey is played outdoors all year long. I know that there actually is summer in Canada for anybody who's wondering. Like, yes, I know that it exists, but it's definitely not as hot as it's been here.
No. I mean, I wore shorts out today, but it was a combo of shorts and a hoodie.
Well, if people haven't figured it out yet, we're breaking the format for this episode because Jason's going to be along for the ride as the co-host on Extraplasm 91, which if we were like a comic book, we could call it that, Extraplasm 91 or something, but it's really just the episode number. And by saying that, I've immediately made the entire episode less timely. If we ever want to reuse it again, now it's shot, although it probably won't be that timely anyway, given that we're going to talk about a lot of news and a lot of stuff that's happening right now. So I'm glad to have you back. You and I haven't talked on microphone, I think, since Ghostbusters Day. And one of the things I was thinking about is that we're about like a month from that. And you and I were talking on Ghostbusters Day about how we felt like there wasn't that much announced and talked about. And since then, there's been a ton. Like, there's been a whole bunch of different merch announcements and things that have happened that I feel like came in the wake of Ghostbusters Day. And it's weird. Like, I feel like the anniversary started on Ghostbusters Day and now is carrying out through the rest of the year. And I wondered how you've thought about that.
I mean, I like it. Why blow it all in one day, right? Why not continue it all throughout the rest of the year? I mean, this is Ghostbusters 40th anniversary all in this year, right? So why not? Why not just kind of move it out there? I like the format. I mean, that said, though, I really would have loved to have had maybe an announcement, maybe some kind of reveal, more reveals on Ghostbusters Day, because I think that's kind of what fans were expecting. But it's nice to kind of have these surprises, especially as we near into San Diego Comic-Con, which every year there's at least something around that time that we learn, either new merch drops, some type of news coming out. So, I like what we've been presented with so far.
I think it's good that we're getting so much more stuff that's coming out. And it's kind of weird, but like, I came back from Ghostbusters Day in New York and I went, oh, I wonder what's going to happen now. Like, I feel like we didn't get a lot of, new content, new product, new stuff, like what will be following. And in the weeks that have happened, like since, I just feel like we've had almost like what I was looking for almost on Ghostbusters Day. It's like we know more about Universal Studios now. We've seen like the parade float come out weeks afterwards. We know that there's like stuff coming for San Diego Comic-Con that's been teased to us, I think, from like Mondo and whatnot. I think we're going to get into some of that today and dig into some of what our predictions are for maybe the rest of the year, if not just until as San Diego Comic-Con, and kind of just process through the news because, I mean, let's face it, you're the expert on Ghostbusters news because that's your website.
Well, you know what? It's really nice not to have a movie delayed and all the announcements delayed with it and actually have a plan in place, it seems like this time, where things are just going to kind of flow naturally and you get maybe new content, new item drops, new news all throughout the year.
It is kind of strange. The disappearance of movie marketing means that things are almost like more paced out, whereas like before it's like trying to meet a series of deadlines and changing dates and things. And so I don't know. That being said, like if they turn around and make another Ghostbusters movie, I will be totally stoked about the the sense of urgency we all hold for that and the need to know more now, because that's where the fun is to some extent.
I do love the people, though, that are like angry online that we didn't get more like 40th anniversary marked merchandise, because let me tell you, when I look at the stuff that has that slime 35th anniversary logo on it, it just makes the item that much better and not dated in the slightest. We don't need 40th anniversary branded merch.
We don't.
Come on.
We don't. And I've said this about like the Hallmark ornament came out this week. We've all been like seeing people run to the store and go buy it. Or in my case, order it online because I don't feel like going to the store to go buy it. And, you know, that's an item that's not branded 40th. But there's no way like you can not acknowledge that that is a 40th anniversary ornament. It's literally from the original movie 40 years after it was made. And the last time Hallmark put out an ornament from the original movie, other than the Ecto 1 that they put out, which was really an Afterlife ornament, right? That was for the 35th. The Venkman ornament they put out was for the last anniversary. So we can kind of talk about this, that even though like the stuff coming out doesn't have the 40th on it, it's still stuff that I think represents the franchise and the anniversary it's happening. So let's do this. Let's get into some prolonged discussion of some Ghostbusters headlines.
Still making headlines all across the country, the Ghostbusters are at it again.
Today, the entire eastern seaboard is alive with talk of incidents of paranormal activity.
Call-in topic today, ghosts and ghost busting.
Extraplasm, read all about it. Ghostbusters headlines coming at you.
Well, to start things off, we should probably acknowledge some Ghostbusters media news, which we typically do on Extraplasm. And there's not a lot, let's be real, right? It's not like anybody turned around since last week and decided that they were going to tell us about a Ghostbusters cartoons release date or anything about a new movie. But if you were excited about the fact that Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is coming to Netflix in the United States, then you can be really excited if you live in Canada because it's going to be on Crave. Jason, I'm going to let you talk about that because I have no idea what Crave is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Crave subscriber. I mean, it's pretty much your budget, bottom of the barrel Canadian streaming service. It's okay. It's actually more mid range. It comes with the introductory Crave package. You can watch it, you can enjoy it. There's different levels, ad free, all that jazz. But to watch Frozen Empire, you're not going to have to like buy their crazy Supreme package or add anything extra to it. It's just included in their standard. So all you fellow Canuckers, and you know you don't want to run out to the store and buy Ghostbusters, or you don't want to buy it individually, here it is.
Like, this is the thing, I'm talking about this last week too with the Netflix release. I'm like, it's on Netflix, and then I like finished recording the news segment, and I thought to myself, well, I mean, like, really, who needed that information? Right, like other than your relatives who haven't watched the movie yet. That's really who needs to know is like, hey, have you seen the new Ghostbusters movie yet? No, I was going to see it in the theater, but I didn't get there. You know, I didn't want to rent it. Oh, did you know it's on Netflix now? Oh, it is? Okay, cool. That's like literally the reason that anybody needs to know this. But I think anyone listening to the podcast has probably seen the movie already.
Exactly. Congrats. Everybody that was not going to spend money to watch it, you could now watch it. So great.
Right. But that's why I'm telling you this, folks out there listening. If you're like, why am I supposed to care about the Netflix or the Crave release? It's that way, as you go to a family barbecue with the summer weeks you have remaining, somebody in your family will say, oh, you know, did you see that new Ghostbusters movie? And you could say, yeah. You'll start talking way too much about it because you're you and you listen to this podcast, and that's totally beloved, and I appreciate you for it. And then you can look at that relative whose eyes have begun to glass over and go, but you can watch it for free. This is not a thing that's ever happened in my life, I swear.
Yeah. No, I got you. I got you. No, I mean, it's cool. I mean, it kind of sucks right now that we are in that stage where, you know, box office and games are going to be kind of what they are now that we're starting to probably slow down a bit in terms of digital sales and people, you know, buying DVD and Blu-ray. I mean, they're still like top spot, like it's still doing well, but, you know, give it a month. It's going to fall off a little bit, quite a bit, a lot.
There's a lot more coming, right? That's, you know, it's kind of weird to think about this, but like you have, as much as we all love this legacy sequel because we're huge fans of it, like Bad Boys just finished up or whatever, or is like being released, and Twisters is coming out. And I actually have had several conversations where I've had to explain to people that Twisters is not a reboot. It is actually a legacy sequel, and it's kind of like Alien and Aliens, right? Like,
what do you think about I don't know about Twisters. You know, like, I don't see it doing well. I could totally eat my words here, but I think it's going to cause just a lot of people like, I don't know what the hell I'm like. Twisters? Nah, I'm good. I don't know.
I am like trepidatious about saying anything about this for the simple fact that I stood pretty proudly on a hilltop and said, there is no way that Bad Boys will in any way be a successful movie. And then it was like the #1 film after a series of like weeks that were historically the worst box office opening ventures in years. So like in decades.
You know what?
I was like, okay, I guess I'm wrong.
I personally, I thought Bad Boys was going to do well, but me watching the Twisters commercials, I'm like, this does not appeal to me. And I like the original Twister, but looking at the trailer, the music, the way it's being marketed, I'm like, you know what? I don't like this, but I don't like a lot of things that the general public like. So chances are this is going to be a massive blockbuster film. I'm not one of those like guys that hang on to every Marvel film, and I don't watch every Star Wars series or anything like that. So I kind of go against the grain sometimes. So who knows? Probably Twister will make $100 billion at the box office.
It's definitely true that everything from the 90s is apparently back because there's a Twisters movie and there's a Bad Boys movie. I mean, that's what I mean. Like, as much as I want to see Ghostbusters stick around in the top of the charts, like everything moves eventually, everything kind of moves out eventually. And weirdly enough, like what is going to displace Ghostbusters Frozen Empire from the top of those charts probably will be movies that call back to the 1990s. And what I think is kind of fascinating about that is that several of us kind of commented that we felt like Afterlife was like an Amblin picture that made callbacks almost like the 1980s to like E.T. or Gremlins or those kinds of vibes. And then Frozen Empire felt almost more like a 90s movie that was aspiring to be more like a blockbustery 90s film in terms of how its vibe was at points. And so to have it kind of have its day in the sun, but then have it leave to be replaced by legacy films from the 90s that have come back is kind of weird.
I can't wait for Titanics. Plural.
Dude, you laugh, but I actually had a conversation with my mother yesterday where I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, I'm watching a show on television." And I said, "What are you watching?" And she started laughing and said, "Titanic." And I said, "Why?" She said, "It's on TV because Titanic, everything 90s is back. So Titanic's on television." You know what I think they'll actually be if they do a sequel to Titanic, legacy sequel to that movie? It's a movie about OceanGate. That's a little too, that's not too far. There's not enough space in between that. I'm not commenting on that one. I'm not touching that whatsoever. There's plenty of space between the Titanic sinking and the OceanGate incident. That's why it's ideal to be a legacy sequel.
All right. Is Shania Twain back for Twisters? Is she rocking again?
I don't know. Every time I think of Twister, the only song I think about from that movie is Shine On by Van Halen. I don't know why, but especially because it happens early on in the movie. It's like what the movie is like. The song it's playing is they're like driving early on when Bill Paxton still has a wife.
I watched it one time at a friend's house and he had like this massive, like it was one of like those big massive box televisions that were like horrible for their time, but like people were still amazed because it was so freaking big. And like the family fed me okra and I like hid it in my pocket. And that's my memory of watching Twister. That's it. I really don't remember. I remember a cow and Shania Twain.
Okra, reverse projection televisions.
Reverse projection.
Shania Twain.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were bad, but they were big.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
they were huge. And now if you have one and you want to try and get somebody to take it away, nobody wants that. No one wants to take that from you. Well, maybe someday they'll make a legacy sequel to Ghostbusters Frozen Empire and we can reminisce about watching it on a dead television format called LED or LCD and how everything's beamed into our brains now because we're watching the movie from inside the theater next to the Little Caesars, inside the Kmart, inside the VR world. You knew I was going to bring it up. But.
Yeah. That's a very, very, I mean, people that are getting that joke are a very small slice of that pizza. They're lost.
That's who this is for. That was a joke for everybody who listens loyally. Everyone else, if you're like, what does that mean? Go find the last episodes Jason was on. You'll figure it out. I hoped that there would be some parade news this week. I thought we might see an Ecto 1 soon from the Universal parks because I believe they're supposed to be making one, right?
Yeah. I mean, to my knowledge, from what I heard, like, I guess people maybe have seen it at the park or what have you. And the original thought was the first day it wasn't out because of weather, but apparently that's not the case because it's still not out as of yet. So hopefully it'll make its appearance sometime within this month.
Is the parade still technically in like technical previews?
I think it is.
Rehearsals? Yeah.
From what I saw photos, there's still like the little signs up saying that's still like in their rehearsal preview mode.
I'm really excited about everything that's going on at Universal. From the parade to obviously the Halloween Horror Nights house that they're doing that's going to be based on Frozen Empire, which is totally cool. That being said, I wanted to see what you thought about this. I have questions about that parade in that the 1984 Ghostbusters are amongst the people in the parade, but so are Phoebe and Trevor. And I don't mean like they're the 1984 Ghostbusters who are now the 2024 Ghostbusters. I mean like Egon Spengler's in the parade, and so is like young Winston.
Yeah.
And then so is Phoebe and Trevor. So do you think that there is like a backstory to the parade float? Like that there was some rift in time?
Oh yeah, Eric Burnham.
Eric
Burnham wrote the entire script of this parade float. They got Eric Burnham on board. Dan Schoening, he wrote up like the early draft. He actually drew the concept of the float. And I have no idea. I have no idea whatsoever. But to me, yeah, it's kind of like that IDW crossover type thing. That's what I was alluding to of why we have 84 characters cross mixing with the Afterlife Frozen Empire cast. I think it's cool. I don't know. I saw pictures of Egon with Phoebe and Trevor. And I mean, obviously, it's not Harold Ramis or Finn Wolfhard or McKenna Grace, but it's still cool to see. I don't know. I like it. It's neat to see that in real life and not just on like an action figure shelf somewhere.
That's exactly what it reminded me of when I saw it. I was like, the only other place I've ever seen this is like Plasma series figures that have been put next to each other, where it's like young Egon and Phoebe. I guess somebody took their family that busts together figure and just threw it out there. Like, who needs this ghost Egon? I'll keep this other stuff. But yeah, it's kind of, to me, I mean, it's fine. I'm not like, I'm angry. That's not screen accurate parade.
There are people that are angry, but I do like the fact too that I think they almost like kind of took people's attention another way with that, where it's like, okay, we're going to do this, but at the same time, we're just going to throw in like a hot dog vendor that's covered in slime. We're just going to throw this girl out here too. And I love that inclusion, because to me, it's like, this is just fun now. Like it's not, we're reenacting Ghostbusters to a T. It's just, this is a fun thing celebrating Ghostbusters, the entire franchise. Even though I would love to have seen a Vigo as well on the back end of the float, maybe. If you are celebrating Afterlife, Frozen Empire, and you're celebrating the first, clear nod to Ghostbusters 2 would also be, I would totally welcome that. But no, it's just celebrating Ghostbusters as a franchise, and I think it's fun. It's cool.
I think there's also a missed opportunity there to have a walking Statue of Liberty. I'm not going to lie. Like there's ever a venue where you would need a giant walking Statue of Liberty as a parade float. That's it. It's right there. But hey, I'm not knocking it. It's a pretty cool float. I'm hoping to get to see it at some point. Although I don't know that parade will come to Hollywood. I think that's one of those like Florida only things. So
next year, they invoke the Statue of Liberty, but at the same time, they do a deal with Planet of the Apes, so it can do double duty.
So for the first half of the parade, it marches alongside some Ghostbusters and slime blowers, and then the second half of the parade, it just the person puppeting that just throws themselves on the ground.
It's like the movie.
Apes ride up on horses.
The end of Ghostbusters 2, it's on the ground. And if you're not talking about the credits scene, we're talking about like at the museum, it falls over.
Yeah,
and that's its Planet of the Apes moment. It's fine. Dude just rides up on a horse. You sons of bitches! You blew it up! Damn you!
Yeah. I'm going to be good without having Charlton Heston in Ghostbusters. I'm going to be okay with that.
The Omega Man.
Well, given that there's no other real like media news and we don't have any parade updates to talk about or Universal updates to talk about, we should talk about some merch. There's some cool stuff that's been announced in the last week, and to some extent, some stuff that's a little bit, I don't want to say controversial, but has been discussion starting. And I think maybe we'll start with that. Star Ace Toys has revealed some things about their upcoming line, and folks had seen the previous sculpt for their Bill Murray or Venkman head, which every time I saw it, I thought to myself, I think somebody must have looked at the Ghostbusters music video when they sculpted his head, because it's like the one context in which you actually see Venkman with a mullet, because they must have done that after, months later and he had longer hair or whatever. So they went back and tried to retool that head and remove some of its hair based off of, I think, fan complaints and feedback. And they've come up with a new version of Venkman's head, But now this one looks, well, it has hair that looks more right, but the face is like Uncle Steve. I don't know who that is.
I mean, I see Bill in both of these, but I'm seeing it almost as like an 80-40 split. 80 in the original, like 40-50 in the updated. Like they lost that Murrayism, especially I think in the lip area and really like the brow area. It's just, this is not a good update. And I feel it's weird too, because like Star Ace, I think that they're doing a pretty good job when it comes to their ghost figures. I know a lot of people are like split on the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but I don't need my Stay Puffs to be 100% to a T screen accurate when it comes to the face. I want it to look more like Stay Puft than a Mini Puft any day, absolutely. But when you have as many Stay Puft Marshmallow Men as I do, I kind of like to have a bit of variety and then to be a little bit different. And I love the fact that this, you know, they come with like the cloth, like the bib, like the chest piece and everything. I think their Slimer looks good. The Terror Dog I've yet to get in hand. It hasn't shipped yet. But when it comes to their like 4 Ghostbusters statues, and that's what they are, unlike Slimer and everything, these Ghostbuster figures, they are statues of Peter, Ray, Winston, and Egon.
Right.
I feel like Peter, as is, was one of the best likenesses. Like when you compare him up to like Winston and Egon and Ray, I feel like the Peter one, like he was the one I looked at and I was like, yeah, that's Bill Murray. The other guys, I mean, the other guys look like they could have maybe possibly came, with maybe the exception of Winston. There's something going on with the eyes there that I find a little weird in the teeth. But Ray and Egon in particular, to me, they seem like they could have came off that Universal lot and they could be the guys acting like them in that parade, because the likeness for those two are not there. Again, I feel like Peter was the best. I feel like that looked like Bill Murray.
You know, what this kind of reminds me of is there was the other line that, Jason, to be fair, I can't remember which one it was, where there was a Ray figure that looked nothing like Aykroyd, and fans kind of looked at it and said, nope, that's not Ray. And then they went back and fixed it. Who was that?
That was Premium Collectible Studio, where they went back, and just fans, they did not like the appearance of the character. Maybe it actually was Ray and Egon, now that I'm thinking about it, possibly. Maybe it was 2 of them.
Yeah,
but I know Ray.
So.
Yeah, I know Ray in particular, like both of them went back, they got like the full retooling, and like they look like the actors. Like that is a perfect example of this, of, hey, we're going to update this for the better, and we're going to actually make people want to buy this thing, rather than the reverse.
You know, and to be fair, I don't know. I'm looking at now, like flipping through the gallery of stuff that Star Ace has offered up with this new design. And in some ways, I feel like the profile shots from the side of Venkman are better with this new sculpt, but it's the straight on shot they're using as like their primary marketing piece that doesn't look great. But like, if you look at the final image in the slideshow that you have featured on Ghostbusters News, where it has him sort of looking off sideways, it looks really good.
Yeah,
but it's this like
looks like Bill Murray.
It's this shot dead on that doesn't look so great. And I don't know what it is. Like, I'm kind of left wondering, like, what is the struggle of getting these characters right? You know, is it that they're trying not to broach too close to actors' likeness at first, and then they're dialing, you know, further away from that or closer to that, given like how things are approved or not, or whatever? Because I don't know, like both of these figures look like Murray, but I do get the sense that like the second one, the new one, doesn't look as much like him straight on. It may still look like him from the side, but it kind of, it just seems more like muddled.
I agree. I like totally agree with that. So, I mean, for anyone that buys this, just display him to the side. That's simple as that. But I don't recall anyone voicing massive, like isolating the Venkman, like being like, this is horrible. I don't want to buy this. You need to redo the face. When it came to the PCS statues, people were like that when it came to those specific characters.
Right.
The Venkman, it seems like overall when it comes to these Star Ace Ghostbuster statues, it's an overall thing of like, hey, the statues as a whole and the price that you want to charge, they don't align properly. They don't line up together. Right. The ghosts and everything are fine. Like they're okay. There's a little more leeway with them because it's not an actor's likeness. But in terms of what they're trying to charge for these statues, like I'll totally admit right now, like if you go to Ghostbusters YouTube channel, you know that I buy a lot of Ghostbusters stuff. I'm not going to buy these statues. I'm buying Star Ace's ghosts, because I genuinely, like, I like them. I think that they look good. I'm very excited for the Burning Stay Puft that's coming out. But when it comes to the statues, I have no intentions whatsoever of buying any of these. Maybe if they do an overhaul, and maybe if they add like decals and like stuff to the Proton Pack and things like that, maybe. But I don't know. I mean, and the fact that this is their update, it does not fill me with that much confidence.
What it honestly reminds me of in a weird way is a bootleg toy line. And I know that's going to sound strange to some people, but like there is another toy line that is not officially licensed by Present Toys. That's like a 1/6 scale, and it's called like Ghost Hunting Squad. And like there's a figure called like Ghost Hunting Squad Z, right? That is like a knockoff of Winston. And those are figures where like they don't have the license and they're trying to like play with not exactly copying an actor's license to avoid some sort of, you know, likeness rights suit. They don't really have the license to the actual line to begin with, etc. And so you expect those figures to kind of not really look like the guys because they're, you know, there's somebody trying to be creative, but not that creative. They just have to be outside the country.
Well, they don't have the direct assets too. Like, I mean, like that line is really trying to imitate the high-end Blitzway figures at a cheaper price and fill the void for people who didn't buy Blitzway. Hey, here's this alternative that still look good enough for some, right? That said, and I don't, you know, recommend anybody buying bootlegs, even though I've made a lot of reviews and videos on bootlegs. Those Zombie Hunter Squad figures, those knockoffs, those I do have pre-ordered, but I won't be buying the Starry statues. So if that shows you how much I'm not a fan of these sculpts, there you go.
Right. Like there's a point where you go, okay, I'd rather have the thing that is making a closer approximation at a price point that I want to engage versus spending a premium price for something that doesn't utilize the assets it has well, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And also, like, as a content creator, I think there is more of a fun side where I can be like, hey, look at these bootleg figures. And then there can be a discussion in the comment section about them. Like, you know what? They're not that bad for this. And, you know, hey, the Proton Packs are pretty sweet. I'm kind of surprised by this. Rather than just a comment section of like, oh my God, I can't believe that these were this much. Like, that's a horror. Like, these look bad, all that. And I'm not saying that the Starry stuff is bad at all. I think, like, neck down, I think these things, the sculpts look great. I mean, honestly, like their suits look fabric. The work that's put into them, like you can tell there's been a lot of like crazy detail work in these things. It's just when it comes to the body, it's the missing decals for me that's a real like, no, I don't want to buy it because of that. Not having the labels on the Proton Pack. And when it comes to Ray, like the caution striping is not on his Ghost Trap, which is like, why not? And let it be known, everything that they posted, it does say, you know, pending approval from Sony and everything.
Right.
So these could be changed. There could be some updates happening and everything. There could still be some updated heads coming out. But the fact that they have went back and they've digitally altered that Venkman head on pre-existing photos and kept the other three guys the same makes me think that he's likely the only one that's going to be changed, especially when I think these are shipping in Q4.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, you know, that's I don't think that that these are necessarily final in terms of what maybe they'll, you know, add stickers to the packs, those kinds of things. But do these probably represent pretty much final sculpts at this point? My guess is yes. You know, I mean, they're saying subject to final approval, but that doesn't mean that they're going to do another round of updates on these. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with them. But, you know, like you, I don't know that I'm going to pick these up. I didn't pick up the Star Ace Ghosts, to be fair. And I've talked about this, that I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I just don't have enough space for another line. And I didn't need another Stay Puft, another Slimer, another Zool. Well,
that's the thing. We're at a regurgitation point right now when it comes to some of those characters, where how many of those do you need? And how many do you need at a premium price point that you have to be like, well, you know what? There's something about this I don't like. You know, like I feel like at some point, some people are like, you know what? Like, if I'm going to spend $150, $200, whatever the price may be on some of these things, I want to be top tier. Because I don't know, like even for me, like I don't have that Pterodog yet. And there's things about that sculpt. I'm like, I don't know if I like it. I don't know. But since I had Slimer and I had Stay Puft, I bid on the Pterodog. Again, though, these statues, and people follow me, you know, I'm positive about a lot of things. I'm not buying those. if Star Ace wants to send me a set, I'll review them, but it may not be the best review, Star Ace. I'll just say that. You may not want to send them to me.
I'm kind of wondering whether or not they'll offer these figures in regular and deluxe format, where the deluxe ones will get stickers for $12 more. Because I could not rationalize the idea that there was the Stay Puft that they've made that's got the burn marks on it, and like the one that costs I think $12 or $14 more lights up, and the other one doesn't. I was just like, why would you even bother? Like, why wouldn't you just make the one? Like, who's buying the cheaper price point on that?
I have no idea. Like when it came to the Slimer, they had it where one lit up, and I think the other one didn't. And the one that like the higher tier also came with like a hot dog that you could like throw in its mouth. So like for like an extra like $10-15, why not? I mean, the first Stay Puft I understood because the mini puff, like the extra head looked a lot like a mini puff. I mean, it was a mini puffed head, the alternate head. I could understand people not wanting that. Okay, fine. But the light up feature to me in this upcoming burning Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, it is the reason to have this figure. It is like, it's the coolest option. I even like the head sculpt where he's got like his mouth open and like, ooh, he again, right. It's a mini puff style sculpt, but it adapts a lot better. I think this one adapts a lot better for Stay Puft.
Yeah, I agree. What it reminded me of actually is, what was that digital short they did that they completely rendered live that Jason Reitman had done, where there was Stay Puft was going through New York City and the Ecto-1 drives like through him, like essentially jumps through his chest or whatever. Well,
that was still a mini puff. That was still a massive mini puff. He didn't have the chest piece on, but yeah, like it was pretty much that face where he's like surprised and shocked. Oh my God, this is going to happen. Like you're about to, char me and blow me up and spread me across New York City. Yeah, it totally reminds me of that now too.
Yeah, like that's what it kind of reminds me of in a way, is like kind of almost a take on that. But you're right. It's like without question a mini puffed head that came with the Hasbro mini puff. It's like it's spot on the exact same one that comes in a box. So it's like, okay, all right. And I can see why people will get upset by those things. But I think that, again, that's where you go, okay, if it's premium price point, you probably got to give people something a little bit more. And then in that case, it's the light up stuff. It's the, okay, that's cool. That's where I go, why do you even have 2 price points? Just give me one. Like if you're going to try and catch me as a customer, don't make me confused by giving me more options than I need. But I don't know, maybe some people want those without lights. I don't know.
Well, you're also getting like alternate hands too with both those Stay Puffs. And I know like they do sell bundle deals like through Star Ace and like different third party, like Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth. They'll sell like a Pterodog and Slimer bundle. Like I've seen even those on Amazon too now. So I'm thinking maybe that is another way, like maybe when they get lower stock too, some of those go into more of the bundles. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah. Regardless,
I don't know.
I like the Slimer. I like the Stay Puft. I already pre-ordered the Burning Up Stay Puft. I'm waiting for the Pterodog. Star Ace, though, please just fix these statues.
I kind of want to talk a bit about what might happen at SDCC this year. We'll get into that. But it's interesting to consider the price point on these statues and these ghost figures when you start to think about and speculate what Mondo is going to charge for premium real Ghostbusters figures. And hopefully we're going to find out something about that at SDCC. But, I think that's where like you start looking at these Star Ace figures and you start looking at other things that are coming out down the line that might be also at a premium level, but have greater points of articulation and that meet sort of fan demand more. And you go, okay, why is this the price point for a, 30 centimeter tall or 11 inches tall figure, for Stay Puft or for a 7-inch figure or whatever it is for the statues?
It could be a readjustment moment for the community in the same way that the Hasbro Proton Pack altered what people are willing to pay, I think, for certain props.
Right.
Where like when that came out, a lot of people were like, oh my God, like no, $1,200, like it totally changed the game. And I think for some people, if Mondo comes through and they do an amazing job, which I have no reason as to why they wouldn't. I mean, everything I've ever had from Mondo, any of their collectibles, it has been top. So I really think that this could, as you kind of alluded to, I think it could definitely like change the game a bit and in some ways actually hurt competing manufacturers out there that are making Ghostbusters products. Because if I can get like a crazy good articulated real Ghostbusters animated Egon Spengler with Proton Pack and Neutrona and big pack-in Ghost and access, like all this stuff for $200, not saying that's the price point or anything like that. And then I turn for a statue that is okay, doesn't move, doesn't light up, missing things for $250. Which one am I going to go with?
Right. Yep. I mean, I think that's a fair thing to say. And again, we don't know what the price point is on those figures. And I do want to talk about SDCC and what we think is potentially happening there, on the back end of this headlines discussion. But like, I think that, there is a comparison to be made there. And when you look at the price point on, say, a 12-inch Mondo figure, right? The 1/6 figures from Mondo usually run somewhere in the ballpark of like $220, $225 when you're looking at their other licensed properties that they have out right now. So, and when you get maybe like a 2-pack of something else, it's a little more expensive. But if you're thinking about that as a price point of even $150 to $200 for a Mondo figure versus something that has no points of articulation and that you kind of look at and go, well, likeness is kind of muddy, right? I mean, my best analogy for this is, I think, Plasma Series Venkman. I'm willing to accept a Venkman who looks like Ted Cruz when that Venkman cost me $15. But if that Venkman cost me $150, then I don't. That's not a thing I want in my collection. It's just at a price point that asks me to be grant too much leeway to likeness. I think if you're going to pay that much money, it needs to look right.
It is going to be, I think, a shock to the system for a lot of people too, though, when it comes to the Mondo pricing that is used to paying the Hasbro Plasma Series price. Like the people that are waiting for those new, the new Plasma Series figures and such like this. And now they're presented with these Mondo figures. They're excited, and then they go to pre-order or buy, and then they see that price point. It's definitely going to be a bit of I think, a shock to those that are just in it for Ghostbusters that don't collect other licenses and aren't familiar with Mondo.
Well, moving out of discussion of action figures, or rather figurines in this case, there's a couple other things that have come out in the last week. I am never surprised by the number of ways in which people can take a series of Ghostbusters pieces of apparel and wallets and other things and slam them into a box together and put a handle on it and sell it as a pack. And it was kind of funny. I saw this article you had posted about a new Ghostbusters collector's box, and I thought to myself, like, I don't know why they don't make a Ghostbusters bento box. And then I literally looked at it and I was like, oh, there's a bento box in the photo. There's literally a bento box in the photo with Ghostbusters chopsticks. And I think this has to be the highlight of this particular Culture Fly box that's now available. Is it's got like what, a hat in it.
We got a hat. We got a Ecto 1 collector's coin. We have an LED Slimer light. We've got the Terror Dog blanket. And then we've got really the prime candidates for best of show here. We've got that Ghost Trap bento box and the No Ghost chopsticks.
Yeah, it's a ghost trap. It's a bento box that looks like a ghost trap, so you can keep your lunch in a ghost trap. And it even has a space in it for a fork and a knife, which is kind of funny given that it also comes with chopsticks.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it does come with a fork and knife inside, which is pretty cool. So you can choose however you want to eat. But no, this is something that for years, whenever I've seen a box similar to this, and actually when I've ever seen, like when I went into like a GameStop and I've seen bento boxes, I've always thought to myself, where's Ghostbusters? I've seen so many, like I've seen horror ones, I've seen a lot of anime ones, which makes sense, but where is Ghostbusters? And to me, like I'm in the same boat as you here. This is the reason to buy it. This is the coolest item. Like some of this other stuff, it's things where if I saw it in the store, I would be like, yeah, it's cool, but I'm not going to buy it. But as a collection, like all in one with that bento box, with those chopsticks, and I don't even use chopsticks. I just like the novelty of them. This is a must for me.
I have to say that I typically don't go for a Culture Fly box. I admit it, because I feel like a lot of what's in it is like often similar to stuff I already have or kind of superfluous. And there's not usually one item in the box that makes me compelled to be like, I need the whole thing. That being said, this bento box is something that will make me want to chase it on eBay so that I don't buy the whole box, or to look for the entire box on clearance at Walmart, because I won't want the whole box, though I know it. But it's kind of funny to me that you said, where's the bento box, Ben? And I've had the same thought, but there actually is one. And it's not as well known. There's like a Gachupon game that happened for Ghostbusters 2016 and was going on in Japan, where like you would go to arcades and you could win prizes. And there were little like Stay Puffs and things like that. But one of the things that you could win was a bento box in the shape of Stay Puft's head.
I do remember seeing that. Yes.
Remember that? It's one of my like random like pieces of Ghostbusters merchandise out there that's from Japan that I like actually go, oh, I really want one of those, even though it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, like it's the only other Ghostbusters bento box that I know of. If anybody's listening out there who's like Japanese or into Japanese Ghostbusters fan culture, like if you know about other bento boxes, I need to know about them. You need to like write in and tell me because I got to know about it. But
it's weird that we got a Stay Puft. I mean, even though not everybody did in terms of the world. But the fact that there was a Stay Puft head bento box for Answer the Call of all films before we got a Ghost Trap one. Just a little awkward, just a little weird. And the cool thing too about this, let me just say right here, because you're American, so you're kind of privileged when it comes to a lot of these boxes. I want to say, where typically all of these are exclusive to US GameStops or Walmarts or what have you there, this one you can order directly online through Culturefly, and they're going to ship it practically worldwide. Like there's a couple places that can't go, but for the most part, you can order this no matter where you are. You're going to pay through the nose for shipping. I've heard, I think the UK is like $42, so you're paying more for shipping than you are the actual box.
Ouch.
Yeah. But the fact that you can actually get it and not have to worry about eBay and paying that inflated price on top of shipping, certainly welcome. So I really hope this is maybe a thing of things to come when it comes to Culturefly and upcoming boxes and Ghostbusters releases.
You're not kidding. I'm on their website right now, and like you could have this shipped to Zimbabwe. You could have it shipped to like the UAE. You could have it shipped to Paraguay if you wanted to, or Pakistan. So if you're out there pretty much anywhere in the world and you've wanted a Culturefly box all your life because you couldn't go to Walmart because there were none near you, now's your time to strike, I guess. I guess this is going to be a Culturefly direct box. I don't know if this is going to show up in stores.
Yeah, there's been no word. Like, there's nothing online that says exclusive, even though I think maybe my article I hinted that it wasn't exclusive online. From all I've heard, from what I gather, I don't think this is going to hit retail whatsoever.
Is this the first box they've done direct since the pandemic?
Like just buy them, like not in terms of hitting stores and such?
I thought they might have done one directly from them during the pandemic. Like there was a Culturefly box from them, and then there was one at Walmart at the same time that people were looking for.
They may have. There's been like a lot of different bundle sets that they've done over the years.
So it's kind of interesting to see them take a shot at doing this directly without choosing a partnered retailer to be exclusive with. I guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, the Ghost Trap one, I remember that was the Ghost Trap lunchbox was GameStop, and then Walmart got the Stay Puft Planner with like, and it's so weird to see how much better the stuff is now, because like that Walmart one back for the 35th anniversary, it came with like a very hollow plastic Slimer figure, a Stay Puft head planter, socks, an air freshener, and coasters, and that was it. Like, honestly, I have that box. I don't know if any of that's still on display, because for the most part, a lot of it is kind of garbage. But the new one, I'm excited for that bento box. I will cuddle up with that Terror Dog blanket. My head's too big to wear the hat, so that's out of the running. But no, they did a great job with this. And I think for $40, I would buy the bento box alone. You have fun waiting to buy it for a lesser price point on eBay.
Yeah. I'm probably going to do that.
You're going to have some dudes like leftover like sushi in there. That's they're fine.
No, I don't want that.
Old hardened rice.
No, I'm just going to wait for some reseller who gets the broken box that came in a package that got salvaged, and then I'll get my bento box somehow. Then I'll probably end up paying just as much as I would have for the entire box, like an idiot, because it's on eBay, and then I'll be like, why didn't I just buy the box? But, this is how it goes. Couple other quick merch items we should talk about. There is a Ghostbusters Halloween shirt available at Big Lots.
It's not newsworthy, but hey, I stretched it into a news story on the website. So if you want to take a look at it, ghostbustersnews.com. There you go.
And if you live near Big Lots, like really, it's $8. So, if you need another Ghostbusters t-shirt to celebrate Halloween with and start getting amped about because it's Halloween season, knock yourself out. And if that's not good enough for you, I think the bigger news coming out of Halloween stores is that Spirit Halloween actually has a new piece of Ghostbusters merchandise for the first time in I don't know how long. I think the big proton pack they put out was probably the last new thing that we saw. They have a new doormat that's available over on Spirit Halloween. Of course, if people are going to grab this, they should probably go to your website and use the affiliate link. I'm just saying. But that doormat, I believe, is retailing for $22.99 and features the Ghostbusters logo on it and says, "I ain't afraid of no ghost" on it. So it's made of rubber. It's 17 inches long. So it's a weather safe mat, I guess you could say. I want also this, I'll be honest.
It's cool too, because I mean the fact that it says "I ain't afraid of no ghost." I assume that Ray Parker Jr. is also getting paid on this. So I mean that's cool. Cutting into the profits just a little bit.
And if he's not, then this is a reason that you should probably buy this item before it disappears. Much like Kenner figures that used to say who you're going to call on them. Because there's a good chance that otherwise this might be a one and done that you never see again. I'm just saying. I don't know anything if that's true or not. I'm just saying on total speculation. I have reached the point where anytime I see any of the lines from Ray's song on a piece of merchandise, I question the longevity of that item and whether or not it will just be sued out of existence or be the result of more residual payments that somebody didn't anticipate in the cost of producing a good.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it's cool that this is, it's out there now. It's been revealed and on sale, ready in stock. And it's also kind of, maybe hopefully a nice omen. I mean, I know we're going to get into San Diego Comic-Con, but, San Diego Comic-Con has been kind of a hub, if it were in previous years, when it comes to Ghostbusters reveals. Like I remember the Proton Pack years back, Spirits was revealed there. So, I mean, it kind of gives me some hope that maybe we're going to get, something else announced, shown, maybe, hopefully. And maybe this is just the kickoff, the introduction to it all.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I mean, there is some stuff to talk about from Frozen Empire they could put out, as like new merchandise. And it's kind of crazy, but like we were just talking about a couple weeks ago, the Scoleri brothers masks that have been put out, not by them, right? But not by Spirit, but rather there is like a line of detailed Ghostbusters 2 Scoleri brothers masks out. So like they have to show up somewhere at some Halloween stores and things. So I mean, I'm pretty excited about this. I think that Halloween season this year might be a pretty cool one. Whether or not we're going to see a lot of more stuff from Spirit is questionable. Like we'll see. Maybe this is the tipping point and we'll see the beginning of some marketing of some new items, or maybe they'll bring back some stuff that we've seen in the past. Like maybe they'll bring back the Slimer again that we haven't seen in a while. But if nothing else, like we've seen some pretty cool stuff that you've been covering from HalloweenCostumes.com and those Scoleri brothers masks. So Halloween this year seems like it's going to be pretty damn cool, to be honest. One quick final thing on officially licensed merchandise we'll talk about for a second. There are apparently a set of new collector coins that have been released to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Ghostbusters. There are several of these that you have provided a really good coverage of this over on Ghostbusters News, illustrating a series of different coins that are limited in different numbers. There's a coin that has the Ghostbusters logo on it that has a UV glow effect and apparently is limited to 500 pieces with a suggested sale price of $270. There's a Slimer that is apparently even more limited than that at only 250 pieces. These are neat. That being said, even though like you could get limited to 250 piece Stay Puft coins, I'm probably going to pass on this for $270. I'll be honest. These look, I like coins and I like challenge coins, but I like challenge coins when I get them from things I went to with people I was with. And I don't know, like, I feel like we're being very negative in this merch segment. Like, I wouldn't buy this. Like, the whole episode is like just going to be called episode 91. Shit we wouldn't buy. By Jim and Jason.
I mean, like, I'm not going to buy it. Not going to buy any of these. I suggest you don't either. No, if you're a coin collector, I mean, these are freaking cool. They're like the first. I shouldn't say the first, because there have been coins years beforehand, but this is like the first batch from the most recent that aren't like shaped specifically. Like, you had ones that were shaped like the Ecto-1, ones that were shaped like the Slimer, Stay Puft, stuff like that. This is more the traditional round coin, which is cool. It's got iconic imagery, classic characters, all that stuff. But I would buy this. It would arrive. I would look at it for a minute, be like, that's cool. Put it away. Never look at it again. Yeah, I don't have an interest in this. If you are a coin collector and you're a Ghostbusters fan, you'll probably eat this up because, again, these are a traditional style coin. The presentation is neat. The box on these are really cool, too. Like that Stay Puft one in particular has a really cool, like, unique art I've never seen before. I kind of want it just for that. One comes packaged with like a Hot Wheels, it looks like, the Ecto 1 version. And that's like one of the most limited. It just comes packaged with the Hot Wheels. Okay. So, I mean, maybe if you're a Hot Wheels collector, it's a cool way and like a unique way you can get that too and have it on display. But yeah, these do nothing for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bar of silver that apparently is for sale as well. There's 400 pieces of silver, a suggested sale price of $325. And my takeaway from this is like, one, this is just not a thing that I want. It doesn't add to my collection. And I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there who's buying these things, but because they keep making them. But it's not me. I admit it. And the other part of it that I will say, like we just talked about premium pricing on things, right? On figures. And most of the artwork, with the exception of the Stay Puft art that you're talking about that you haven't seen before, but I think I have, on the coins themselves. Like the boxes are different, but the coins themselves, they have stuff that's coming straight from like the Ghostbusters style sheets that are like out on different t-shirts. Like these are logos that you could find on a t-shirt at Kohl's. Like that have just been like screen printed onto a metal coin with several $100 price point to be like, oh, it's limited in number and you own one. And it's like, okay. And I mean, I'll just say this, like, I'm not the kind of person who's going to go on eBay and spend hundreds of dollars on a challenge coin from one of the Ghostbusters fan events, right? Which to me is like, just as limited, but even more important as a fan, because it's something that was made by people in the fandom and celebrates an event that fans went to. And that's by no means, if you do that, this is not a judgment of you. I have challenge coins from events I've been to. I've been gifted challenge coins from events that I was not able to go to, but somebody gave me. So like, that's cool. It's all great. But like, there's a sentimental or emotional value for me in that. There's like this represents a moment in time. And that's why I don't understand why people sell them, because it's like, well, hold on to that, because it's kind of like almost like a Horcrux of that. And that sounds bad. Horcruxes are bad. It's almost like a container of a moment. You know, it's kind of a thing to hold in your hand and kind of call back memories. And that's kind of neat to me. But I'm not going to spend money on challenge coins for hundreds of dollars for things I didn't attend. And in the same sense, like there is no part of me that gets fulfilled by spending hundreds of dollars on a coin that has something screen printed on it, just so I can say I have one and it's limited. Okay, great. Like what, who cares? Like, why does that matter?
No, I get that. But at the same time too, like in this episode, I have admitted to being like, hey, you know what? I need to get that Stay Puft from Star East because it lights up and it has a little fire on it. And I want to spend $40 plus shipping and handling to get a bento box up to Canada. So as you said, if it makes you happy, if you like it, do you. Right. I just know for me, I like more. I don't want to say functional because, the Stay Puft's not really functional. It's going to sit on my shelf, right? I'm going to put it there. Oh, that's cool. It's kind of like that. But at the same time, there's kind of a play feature there. There's like a display feature there. And I know that you can get that with the coins too. It's just, it just doesn't do anything for me. And I think the limitedness of it turns me off strangely more than it should, because I know like I'm not going to get every one. And I know there's going to be a rarer one next. Mm-hmm. So when's the end point? Okay. You're putting logos on things. When is it going to stop? And it's never going to stop.
Yeah. I kind of feel similarly.
At the same point though, how many Slimers and Stay Puft figures do I need? When's it going to stop? It's never going to stop. So we all have our vices. We all have our addictions. Okay.
We do. And to be fair, like in my case, I decided I needed to take an RC trap because I was a person who coveted RC traps when they were canceled, and drive one to Josh Gad last week so he could sign it, right? And give him one as well. Like, so, I've certainly collected the things that I think have value to me, but I guess that's what I'm getting at. It's like, I look at coins at this point, almost like if it's not a challenge coin that represents something that I can kind of point to that has some sentimental or emotional weight for me, I don't know why I need it. I just don't know why I need it. Like, it's just not a thing where I go, look, I got a coin. Okay, cool. Why does that matter? Like,
I think if we were both born like 10 years prior, we'd be coin collectors. It's like the stamp collectors. We were born at a different time. That was the problem.
Yeah, it's much like I was too old for Pogs and never understood them. I was like, why are these a thing? These are just like cardboard discs.
I got them right around the time. Like, I was just like, I had a good year worth of Pogs, and it was like, nah, I'm good. I remember one summer I hung around my local convenience store because whenever I bought a Slurpee, they gave me 5 WWF Pogs. And I was missing a Bob Backlund one. And I went there every freaking summer. And then I found out the guy knew, because like the second day he asked me, he's like, who are you looking for? And he knew when I was looking for it. So whenever he handed them to me, he kept the Bob Backlund away, I found out. And he told me the last day of summer.
I admittedly never really got into Pogs. Maybe that's why I'm not deeply into coins and these kinds of things. What I am more interested in, even though I can't afford any of it, and it's way more collectible because there's only one of most of these things, are the amazing things that are going to be available at the PropStore auction in August next month in Los Angeles, because there's a whole bunch of Ghostbusters stuff that is going to be available for sale. Although, again, it's way more limited than those coins because there's usually only one. So have you seen any of this, Jason, the stuff that's available in the PropStore auction for next month?
I've seen it all. By the time this episode goes to press, as they say, which they don't say when it's live, there's going to be an article up on GhostbustersNews.com covering everything and showing all the photos and such. Yeah, this is a hell of a spread in terms of what they have. I mean, it's mostly the OG film, 84, and also there's some Answer the Call goodness in there. I think there's also like some photos from Afterlife. But the biggest item here, and it's kind of, I guess you can argue, but really the biggest item is Slimer. We're getting, to my knowledge, and apparently to PropStore's knowledge, the first time a Slimer puppet has been auctioned off that has ties. I mean, it started, its base is an original Slimer puppet from the 84 film. Like it was made for that movie.
But not used in the movie, right? So it is a production-made drinking onion head that would have been drinking wine, but apparently was not actually used in filming.
It depends. I don't know. The article says it wasn't used, but their social media post says a scene that wasn't used, it got cut. So I don't know.
So what their description says in the auction catalog is they say, this production foam latex casting cast without eye or mouth details was intended to be worn by a performer who would put their gloved arms through the armholes in the puppet. It features an alternate face sculpt created for a shot where Slimer drank wine or champagne out of a bottle. The sequence was filmed, and behind-the-scenes photos of the drinking Slimer exist, but it was ultimately unseen in the final cut of the film. The drinking Slimer used the same body as the standard puppet with the alternate mouth sculpted and grafted on. So some of us have seen these behind-the-scenes photos of him with the bottle, right? And this is that Slimer.
So it was filmed. It was filmed, right?
Yeah, but it was filmed, but not screened, if that makes sense. It didn't make the cut. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, then, if it's filmed, when it comes to how they laid Slimer, you know, how he was played to the movie, I think if it's filmed at that point, you can almost consider it cut from the film, right? Like it was not used. It was, especially when there were scenes of Slimer drinking, it was something where it was probably just like, it's not going to look good here. You know, let's do that further away shot where it's like a side profile of him, you know, drinking back the wine or whatever it is, the champagne. This is a cool collectible. Like, this is, I mean, as you said, 1-in-1, believed to be the only Slimer, like original Slimer prop that's still in existence. And the fact too that again here, I mean, I know we're going to kind of touch on it here. It's been kind of suited up a bit. It's been brought back to its former glory, luckily. So unlike a lot of those 84 props, it's not really concaving into itself. It doesn't have holes. You know, it looks like you could actually put it up, and it looks like it came directly from, heck, I mean, it looks like it came from Frozen Empire, to be honest. Like it looks like it just came off of a set.
And that's consistent for a reason, right? Like this piece, as according to the PropStore catalog, apparently was what they call sympathetically restored. So somebody tried to sympathetically restore it. And they said that a semi-rigid urethane sealer was added to it to preserve its shape. And then it was repainted, but in inaccurate colors. But more recently, to return him to his original 1984 work, the puppet was given a restoration and special effects studio treatment by Aryan Tuatin's company, who of course sculpted Slimer for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So when you say he looks like he came out of Frozen Empire, that's likely because the last artist to have their hands on him was the person who made the suit for Frozen Empire, right? From sort of the same similar molds. So this is a weird piece because it's something where they also then did additional work to add in eye replicas and mount them at the same time. So this is like the same period that Arjen is working on the Frozen Empire Slimer. He's taking this original puppet and essentially fixing it up and adding in the missing eye pieces, etc., that were not in there because they, of course, were holes for an actor to see through. So they're looking at like $10,000 to $20,000 as the estimate on this. And its dimensions are 31 inches by 32 inches by 31 inches. So, I would be honest. I'm not going to be surprised to see this go for more. Like, I will not be surprised to see this go for above 20 because of what you just said, which is that, like, there is not another full Slimer from the original movie that exists. Like, the others that exist are like essentially decompiled pieces that are now sold on eBay in flakes, right? Like attached to cards.
If this thing doubles, like if we cross 40,000, I would not be surprised at all on this. I mean, if you want to talk about iconic characters, easily recognizable characters, I know there was, talks about like Jason Reitman when it came to the production of Afterlife and Ivan in previous interviews, discussing the beauty of Slimer, and a lot of those original Ghost characters is you can draw it easily. Like you just see it and you know what it is. This is clearly Slimer. Any random person, you have this on display, they're going to see it. Oh, that's Slimer. There's no question as to what this character is, where it's from. And I think it is going to, it's going to command spirited bidding.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I really do. I think this is going to be a piece that, especially for the sort of deep, high value collectors in the community, are going to recognize what this piece is and why it's really important. It's really cool. It's something I'll never own, I'm sure, but I'm hopeful that maybe they'll have it at the auction preview that they usually do in Los Angeles, because if they do, I totally want to go down and see it face to face and get some good personal photos with it. A couple other cool pieces in the auction that we should talk about. Another really cool piece is the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man's hat is apparently available. It was also something that was recently stabilized and restored by Arjen's studio. So he's also worked on this to try and figure out how to stabilize it a bit. It's been mounted to a 3D printed display to take this deteriorating Stay Puft band to attach it to a foam backer and seal the exposed foam areas to prevent further deterioration. But like, what I think is cool about this piece is that I would not want to own it because I would be afraid about how much it's going to deteriorate over time. But looking at it, it's almost like looking at remnants of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from 40 years ago. Like, it's like if he had fallen in the street and he had been torched and his hat fell off in the process and we watched it float to the ground and then somebody scooped it up and threw it like in a pile and it just sat in a basement somewhere and then got unearthed, because it's like, it's the one part of him we do see in, I don't think we see it in the actual movie, but in the deleted scenes where Walter Peck gets hit with all of that marshmallow, his hat floated down as well as part of a deleted scene that we didn't actually see in the movie. So this to me feels like the aftermath of that moment.
Yeah, and you can tell with the Slimer, like whoever had it before Arjen, worked his magic. They probably did stuff in terms of like, filling in gaps, connecting this, connecting that. But they probably just did, not acceptable job, not a $20,000 sell point kind of job. And I like with the Stay Puft is you can tell that for the most part, aside from, a few things kind of changed here and there, you're keeping it as pristine as possible to the age, how much it's actually aged since 84. Like he hasn't went in there. There's no repaints here. This thing is dilapidated. This thing is falling apart. But with that, it adds so much character to it. And honestly, like I love that Slimer. Like I would love to have that Slimer, but I strangely think this hat is as cool. At the same time too, I mean, this is also estimated between $10,000 to $20,000. I don't see this hitting this. I don't know. I actually get, no, you know what? I do see this hitting probably around the same price point as Slimer. I could see this again, almost doubling because it is that go-to character when it comes to Ghostbusters. It's Slimer, it's Stay Puft, and both of these things instantly recognizable.
And it's the only one to ever come to market. Right. So it's like there's never been another Stay Puft hat. It's whether or not this was actually worn by Billy Bryan, right? Like, and whether this is the one he wore is not something they disclose here. They haven't screen matched this and they haven't said that. So is this one that he actually used, or is this another, a backup hat that was sitting in storage and that's just deteriorated? I don't really know. That's not really something they disclose in their listing, but they do say that it's the only one that's ever been released to market. So, and I can't imagine there were that many Stay Puft hats that they sculpted. I mean, they made a lot of heads, but I can't imagine they made a hat for every head, Yeah.
I'm sure there was a stockpile of some sorts, but the fact this is the first one coming to auction and in the condition that it's in, it very much like that Slimer, you could make an argument this is likely the last one out there. Yeah. I mean, so I think this will command what they expect to get from it. I don't know if it's as iconic as Slimer as a display piece. And I think that if you decide that you want to own this and keep it in your collection, you have to have like a hermetically sealed vault to put it in, to lock it away from time and space, to prevent it from deteriorating further. I mean, that's the reason why I would love to see this. I don't know that I would love to own it, because I think I would be terrified about what I would end up doing to it by my own ownership, but it's very cool without question. Couple other cool pieces in the auction we should talk about real quick. There is a terror dog foot with 4 claws that's from Stuart Ziff's collection. And Stuart Ziff, of course, was recently visited by our friends Matt and Tom of the Containment Unit, who did a signing with him. My understanding is that when they were there, they were hanging out with Stuart and Mark Brian Wilson. And there are photos that they sent me, I believe, of Mark holding terror dog toes that he may have sculpted. These could be them. I don't know that for sure, but I probably have to ask them and see if they know. But this came out of Stuart Ziff's personal collection, apparently, and it's a terror dog foot with 4 claws. And if you remember when the terror dog's foot is exposed from the statue, this is probably like one of those feet, is my guess based off of what it looks like. But Mark Brian Wilson told a pretty good story when we saw him during all those signings about sculpting individual terror dog toes. And that was one of his jobs, was to essentially figure out how to make terror dog toes. So there's a really good chance that those are, not just from Stuart's collection, but that might have also had some handiwork done by the man who played Slimer in 1984 as well, which is kind of cool. So not that I know that for sure. Don't put that in your reason to bid. Thoughts about terror dog feet? I mean, the terror dog feet has also went under some sympathetic restoration. I mean, again, here, it's nice to see a terror dog, like a prop from 84 that's not falling apart again. So that's neat. Because all the other ones that I've ever seen, like, you've got like even terror dog heads. There was the one that was auctioned off last year where it was like missing like a quarter of its face, where its left eye was just pretty much gone. So it's cool to kind of see this. To me personally, it does not hold anywhere of the same, yearning that I have for the Slimer puppet or the Stay Puft hat, but still pretty cool. I yearn for that Slimer. Oh my God. Oh God. I'm just thinking, I got kind of that thing with Slimer, right? Like people kind of like, they mock me online. This is really like my only real effort to get like an original Slimer booty.
Yeah, no, it's like, I mean, look, people don't know this, I don't think, but like when I met Steve Johnson recently, I had actually texted you to tell you I shook Steve's hand. And then I told you that because I shook his hand, by proxy, because he sculpted Slimer's butt, that I had also touched Slimer's booty, right? Like, so you either have to figure out how to get this in your collection so that you could own an actual, like, real Slimer booty, or you have to kidnap Steve, one or the other.
Yeah, just have him make one for me. Just you're the master. You know how to do it. No, I mean, again, really cool for the terror dog foot. It seems like there's like a lot of those like little terror dog pieces and claws that we always see kind of pop up when it comes to these auctions. So it is nice to actually have a foot to go along with the claws and actually have it, look presentable.
It's pretty cool. I think one of the other important pieces from the auction is there's a race stance utility belt from Ghostbusters 2 that was worn by Dan Aykroyd throughout the movie. I was looking at this. It has DA marked on it for Dan Aykroyd and whatnot, so it's been vetted as legitimate. Their estimate is between $8,000 and $16,000 on this. And I think the trap hanger is pretty good, but I was looking at the belt gizmo and I'm trying to decide if this is like a stunt gizmo or what. Like, because the PCB is definitely not a PCB. It's definitely a piece of leather that's like got trace marks written on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is like the Ghostbuster 2 one where they were kind of shoddy and such. And yeah, no, I mean, this checks out to very similar to the one that Ernie Hudson, like the one I think that was auctioned off, or the one he originally had at one point there. So it definitely looks like it checks out and everything. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the times the utility belts and accessory bundles, they don't really far exceed their amounts. Like usually they hit that entry level and that's about it from what I recall.
Right.
So I could see this selling for $8, especially with the gizmo and the trap holster. It's cool. I mean, I don't know if there's too much to talk about with this one, but it's cool for all you Dan Aykroyd fanatics, which I guess we all are. But you Dan Aykroyd fanatics that again have $8,000 lying around your house.
Yeah. Couple other pieces.
That's not me.
That's not me either, I admit. No. A couple other pieces in the auction that are probably a little less exciting for some folks. There's a series of different answer the call props available, including a V3 light up proton pack that was used by Kate McKinnon, apparently. That's estimated at $6,000 to $12,000, which immediately tells you something about like how the answer the call props are valued on the auction market. When you can go, hey, Dan Aykroyd's belt is valued at $8,000 to $16,000, and a proton pack that was from Answer the Call is valued at $6,000 to $12,000. So they're still worth money, but they don't carry the same amount of value, I think, within the fandom, and I think even the auction houses know that. A couple other things that have popped up in the auction. Sort of deeper in the catalog include a hand-painted matte painting of Dana Barrett's apartment building, which is pretty damn cool. That's valued between $10,000 and $20,000, and essentially is the framed matte painting that they used for Stay Puft's arrival, with his foot stepping down in front of the church, which is very, 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 very cool. That's the painting that was used for that shot. Some other stuff that's in there includes an Abby Yates V3 light up proton pack in Ghostbusters 2016, valued at the same amount. So if you're not into Jillian Holtzman, but you are into Abby Yates, you can go that route. If you actually buy them both, then you're halfway to assembling the cast of Ghostbusters 2016's proton packs. It's kind of wild to think about.
They are the V3 ones too, which is pretty cool. So I mean, you get like the lights and the rumbles and everything like that. I mean, you get everything except for the proton stream.
That's right. That's right. You got everything you need to shoot a giant Moogly in the nuts, as I recall from that movie, is what you do with proton packs. Some additional offerings in the PropStore auction. There is a Temple of Gozer door model miniature that's valued between $3,000 and $6,000. If you are a fan of collecting individual little cars that were around Mr. Stay Puft, there is a taxi model miniature and crew parking placard that's available that you can buy, as well as a fire department model miniature that was used in Ghostbusters from the 1984 movie. There's a Ghostbusters 2 Dan Aykroyd use patch for Ray Stantz, and a production made Ghostbusters 2 Peter Venkman business card, which I'm sure that somebody's going to just download the image of and figure out how to print and sell on Etsy. There's a binder of storyboards, a printed Simon Merton concept illustration of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and then probably the most confusing thing to me out of this auction is a light up proton pack replica that is valued at $2,000 to $4,000, and sure as shit looks like a Video Bob pack to me.
Yeah, it's guesswork in terms of like the builder, all this stuff. Like there's nothing information wise on here yet until they get listed on the PropStore website. These are listings that have the title, your estimate, and that's it. So that's all the information we have to go on right now. But this is, for all intents and purposes, a fan-made proton pack, and it has a Mattel wand, it looks like, attached to it. And the estimated price is $2,000 to $4,000. And I have no idea. I mean, maybe somebody will buy it. Maybe somebody, I mean, if you're kicking back and you're spending $20,000 on a Slimer, might as well, just throw in another $2,000 and be like, sure, I'll take a replica pack too, whatever. I don't care. But yeah, it's really, it's weird to have this just kind of hucked in there alongside all these actual pieces that have some type of lineage to them.
Yeah, it really is. Especially because like what's next to it, and I didn't realize it when I said this, is that like the Simon Merton concept illustration is actually from the Ghostbusters Spooktacular. Yeah. So it's not from the movie. It's like from the Universal show they did, right? Like where they said, hey, what would that look like? And they had somebody come up with the concepts.
Yeah. So I mean, like the concept art here has like that big, like creepy clown, which the Chioda brothers, the guys that did Killer Clowns from Outer Space, they went onto that project and like they were the ones that crafted the clowns in that, in that stage show. So yeah, this is like a really cool piece of Ghostbusters history next to an item that has no piece of Ghostbusters history outside of some fan making it. So
it's just like, why is this here?
Exactly. Like I'm not by no means am I against, homemade light up proton packs. I just don't think I don't think they have a place in a PropStore auction.
No, I 100% agree. And I'm sure that you could say that maybe even homemade proton packs have more of a place in a PropStore auction than one that might have been made by somebody who once upon a time brought it to Pawn Stars. But I digress.
I don't know. Again, I don't know the origin of these packs. I don't know any backstory on this. It's just it's really random to kind of see this just kind of show up here. So I'm looking forward to seeing when PropStore actually lists these on their site. And we can actually get like a full description in terms of possibly previous owner, where it was featured, all that, because maybe there is a story to this somewhere.
Maybe.
I'm just not seeing it. But also, I should touch on this. I'm not too sure if you're seeing it. There are 2 more items left here.
Yes.
One is a 2016 screen matched light up reel-to-reel EVP recorder, which I don't know. I feel like one of these was already auctioned off, so I don't know how many of these they had on set. Why you needed multiple? But there's that. And then we've got 173 continuity photos from Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Which include, by the way, if you look at those continuity photos, one of them is of Podcast's USB drive. It's the My Little Pony thumb drive that I have talked about for 2 years. They actually took continuity photos of it, which I find hilarious. I'm like, well, what? There's no change to that thing throughout the movie. So what did you need to keep continuity about?
There's also a picture of a pint of ice cream, and that's it.
Of the Jamocha almond fudge, in fact, is what that is.
Yeah, you got to make sure that Gary has that Jamocha.
Yeah. One of the things I do think I see here, though, in these photos that fascinates me far more, and it's the second photo from the right when you look at the listing, is what appears to be the remnants of a shattered PKE meter. And if you recall, that is a cut scene from that movie, right? That the original cut of the movie had Callie breaking the PKE meter in anger at Phoebe. And then when we see her after the transformation into Zool, Phoebe leaves the house and goes outside and says the line, like, this is not a farm, it's a trap. And she's holding the PKE meter in her hand, but it has been fixed. It has tape and all kinds of things on it because she's attempted to put it back together. This was ultimately a discarded plot point that they got rid of because it tested poorly and made, like, Carrie Coon's character look like an alcoholic mom who breaks her kid's shit. And so they ended up getting rid of this plot point, but it's in the continuity photos, which I find fascinating. And so to me, like, the reason I would want these photos more than anything else is to know what else is in these 173 photos that maybe got cut from Afterlife, but made it into these stills.
Well, this one's only expected to sell between 1,000 to 2,000. You go ahead and swing it, Jim. You can do it.
I mean, at that price, I'm tempted to say, hey, I need these because they'll answer some questions or at least create some new mysteries. That's how we get content, isn't it? Don't you just buy things and then talk about them?
Listen. I may not have the actual My Little Pony thumb drive, but I've got a photo of the actual My Little Pony thumb drive. That may be even better.
That may be even better, especially because it tracks the continuity of the thumb drive over the course of the movie, because obviously it's seen repeatedly and not just once. But yeah, I mean, these are pretty cool things. I lack the disposable income, I think, for most of them, but there's definitely some very cool stuff that's coming up in the PropStore auction, and I'm hopeful that I might get to see some of it in person when it shows up here in Los Angeles, because that's where the auction is happening. And when they do the preview event, you usually have access not to all of the stuff, but to the best, most high profile stuff that looks good for them to bring people out and attract folks to the event, which I would hope would be that Slimer, because it's a pretty damn awesome piece. So
yeah, I mean, they in terms of like, they haven't even like opened all these items up yet for the public to know what they are. You have to sign up. You have to be like, oh, I'm going to buy there's a wall you have to go through to look at this stuff right now. But in their social media post today, they have posted a shot of that Slimer on the showroom floor. So yeah, it definitely seems like one of the headliners.
Yeah. I'm hopeful to get to see it, and I hope that it goes to somebody who's going to take really good care of it, because, you know, I mean, these are museum pieces at this point that are only going to be harder to keep maintained, given that they're foam and what have you. And to know that not only now is that like a piece that, you know, that Slimer, for instance, is weird if you consider it. It's probably the only Slimer that was worked on by both Steve Johnson and Arjen. Like when you really get down to it, it's probably like it's a Slimer that was created and sculpted and pulled from molds probably by Steve. And then Arjen went back and worked on and fixed. So it's kind of crazy to consider. Well, I think that kind of wraps up our discussion of merchandise, including really high-end merchandise you could buy from PropStore. What I think we should talk about for a couple moments, if you're down for it, is, you know, what's coming. San Diego Comic-Con is a little bit over a week away from the release of the episode. The preview night is probably like, you know, a week away. So for those of you who get to go to that, hey, have fun. I will not be at San Diego Comic-Con, although I live in California, because I've, one, never been, and two, don't want to go crush myself at San Diego Comic-Con because it's too many people. But I think we're going to find out some reveals in the next week. If not just because of Comic-Con, there's also an event that's happening in California the same weekend this year that's called Midsummer Scream, which is like a Halloween convention. And that is a convention where Universal often makes an appearance and illustrates and shows off things about their Halloween season to come and what have you. They often have a walkthrough event at it, etc. And so I think that we may come back from Comic-Con weekend with some new announcements about Ghostbusters stuff. Some of what we teased and talked about already is the Mondo stuff. Jason, what do you think we're going to find out from Mondo at Comic-Con? Because when they appeared last, they said we'd find out more there.
Yeah, I think we're going to get that Series 1 reveal. I think we're going to get Peter, Ray, Winston, Egon, and I think they're going to hit us up with 2 to 3 prime ghosts like Samhain, Boogeyman, Sandman, characters like that. But I definitely see that we're going to get that Series 1 possibly. And maybe 2, and I'd really hope, I would love to see with that Series 1, Janine as well, Janine Slimer. But then again, I mean, what you need some selling points for Series 2 too, right? So, yeah, but I think we're definitely going to see the line get outlined. And at the same time too, who's to say we may not see like near finished sculpts on display and then see a tease of Series 2 and see some of those like just the sculpt work and stuff like that. And again, just kind of showing the outline as to what this what these series, what these figures are eventually going to be.
Yeah, my hope is that we're going to get a reveal of a line, and that line is going to include figures that we never had. That's a big thing for me right now. Like, I think it's crazy that for as long as Kenner had the Ghostbusters license, and as long as Hasbro's had the Kenner Classics license, and, you know, been the primary toy licensee over the last several years, like, they have not leaned into making things that came from the real Ghostbusters other than to produce stuff we already had, which are not figures from the cartoon. Like, they would be called real Ghostbusters figures, but that Egon is not like, he doesn't look like Egon from the cartoon. He looks like a variation of a 1980s action figure. I don't understand why, when they got that license, they didn't turn around and go, let's expand on what you have and give you a Boogeyman. Let's give you a Samhain. Let's give you, a Sandman. Those were all figures we never got as kids. I'm really hopeful we're going to get them from Mondo. Like, I mean, that's the thing that I really want most is like, yes, I want 4 guys that are stylized in the same way, but what I almost want more is like 4 guys and then give me, like you said, sort of 3 ghosts that I haven't had before, or at least 1 or 2, you know?
I think, and I have no insider knowledge, I have no insider information. I believe that when it comes to Hasbro, I think the people that are looking over the Hasbro division, like, or the Ghostbusters toys, like in particular the Hasbro Pulse, that crew, I think they know what is best for Ghostbusters. I think there's a struggle though, in terms of getting Hasbro, the higher ups, to agree upon it in terms of like, okay, we are going to go through with this. We are going to put the money into this. Because I think there's a bit of a struggle in terms of who are we selling to? Are we trying to sell to new fans, kids? Are we trying to sell to that 30, 40, 50-year-old that grew up on real Ghostbusters? And I think there is kind of a disconnect there when it comes to some of those at Hasbro. Again, I think the people that look over the Hasbro department and speaking with them, they know exactly what the audience wants. It's just a question about, can we get those above us to agree? Can we get the allocation of funds to do this and do that? Right. Well, with Mondo, I think they have a pretty good, clear indicator where it's like, we know our audience. We're coming for that older. We're coming for the people with money. We're going for the people that actually have jobs. We're not going for the kids. We're going for the people that grew up on this stuff. They're going for nostalgia. And a little over a week now, when the show airs, we're going to be seeing possibly the greatest looking Ghostbuster figures ever made. I mean, when it comes to Mondo and their track record, and just the shots that we saw from their artist that wasn't, official and done just for fun, if they look anything like that in a collector scale that you can buy, these are hands down the best real Ghostbuster figures ever, if not the best Ghostbuster figures ever. And the fact that if we may actually get some of these ghosts that we've been waiting 35 years for, I mean, myself, my favorite ghost is the Sandman. And if you guys do a Sandman, as in Mondo, I mean, to me, I'm invested. I'm in that line. I already am. I'm going to have to buy everything, obviously. But these are figures that some of us, we have been waiting 35 years for. A Sandman, a proper Boogeyman, a proper Sam Hain, a Grundle. There's so many characters they could wind up doing. And even I think there's characters in the Kenner line that are worth revisiting. Granny Gross in like an actual Kenner style. At the same time, too, I mean, if you're doing Watt, it may be a little too close to that. But there's so much exploration that they could do here. And, if they want to keep it true to RGB, the cartoon series, great. But then if they want to like do kind of a, an offshoot and maybe do some Fright Feature style figures, or if they want to do some Power Pack Hero style figures and like the crazy color schemes, there is so much fun they could do with this. Or even, reimagine film characters like Vigo, like Gozer, in the RGB style. There is so much room here that they can actually kind of play in.
That's another thing I would like to see, is sort of taking those characters from the movie and doing them in a similar style to the animated world. Like, I think that you and I have both been avid fans of a toy company that was doing some things that were inspired along those lines for some time. And so, I think there's a precedent for folks who've been interested in that kind of approach of taking characters from the cinematic universe and blending them with the cartoon universe. You look at things like Pizzaplasm, Chris Sorrentino's art, where he's been taking the original movies and redoing them in the style of the animated series. And I think they're like, if you're talking to adult collectors as people who are the target market for this, as opposed to kids, because that's who Mondo's talking to, I think you can do that. I think you can do that kind of stylized figure and produce something that maybe you didn't see before in the original animated series. And maybe those are things that happen in a wave 3, a wave 4, if they get that far along. Give us the things that we never had on the screen first, from the screen first is what I would prefer. But from there, you could expand it out, and do some different things with it. Would be kind of cool.
It's a really weird scenario they're in, because like the real Ghostbusters figure line, the Kenner line, is arguably one of the most memorable and greatest figure lines of the 1980s. But at the same time, the show that they're based on has never had actually really good figures. Like, there's a disconnect again here when it comes to what you see on the TV and what you can actually buy in the store. And I mean, toy companies have tried it. I mean, you touched on them Hasbro bringing back the old Kenner figures.
Diamond Select got close, right?
Diamond Select Toys, they did an okay job, but they were just like, okay, we're going to do the heads, but we're just going to reuse body sculpts. Our Slimer is going to be a reuse of the movie one. It's going to have all these weird bumps and bubbles on it. But hey, it's real Ghostbusters. It's more toys in line. People will accept it. It's fine. It was kind of a bare minimum release, in terms of alterations. So the fact that these likely are going to be, I mean, they're going to have to be from the ground up because it's Mondo. It's their first time in. And looking at their other figures like He-Man, Turtles, all this other stuff, you can expect Ray, Winston, Peter, Egon to have all separate body sculpts. Not saying it's going to be like that, but you can expect it. Likely nothing is going to be reused. And if it is, it's going to be probably small stuff like forearms, hands, things like that. So yeah, I'm very excited. I don't want to get people's hopes up when I say that these could be the greatest Ghostbuster figures ever, but they could be the greatest Ghostbuster figures ever. There's a possibility.
It's kind of funny, but like the last real Ghostbusters figures to probably be sculpted with different bodies probably were the Kenner figures. Like, because each of them actually have different bodies, right? Like Rey is shorter and fatter, and like Egon's taller and thinner, and they each have different belt things that are on them. But that is like the most, that's very basic sculpting. Since then, all that time, pretty much every other release we get of Ghostbusters figures has the same body bucks, except with the exception of like looking at the Maddie line or the Plasma Series line, the Venkman figure has his pants untucked, but like aside from that, you do see that same reuse of the bodies over and over and over again. And you can't do it as easily with the animated figures and be authentic. They're each different,
Since Kenner, Real Ghostbusters has been an afterthought in every single line it's ever, like any company's ever had it. It's never been the priority. This is the first time since the 1980s Real Ghostbusters is a priority again. So I'm excited. And again, mainly, I mean, I love the 4 guys, the fact that we can actually have proton packs that are painted. They look great. All the accessories, but I'm really invested too in the concept of those prime canon ghosts, like canon as in the animated series, those prime ghosts. And if it does well, explore it further. Maybe do some extreme Ghostbusters. Maybe there's a market for that too down the road. This is exciting kickoff point.
I'm excited about it. I'm not sure how I feel about. I think I'm going to know more about how I feel about it after I know the price point. And I'm hopeful that is what we're going to find out at SDCC, as well as not just, hey, these are the figures and we'll get back to you about when and how much. I want to see them, and I want somebody to say to me, this is how they're going to come out. They're coming out, in clamshells that are going to be featuring a pack-in ghost or something, and the price point is X, or they're going to be in double packs and they're going to be, X amount of money for 2 figures and 2 pack and ghost, whatever it is. Like, I just want to know at this point, because I think the other thing that, we can talk about in a second that is going to be a thing to spend money on in Q3 and Q4 is probably going to be a HasLab for an Ecto 1 that we're anticipating. And so as a person who's kind of being methodical and strategic about what I decide to go and throw my money at, although to be fair, I bought 2 stupid Hallmark ornaments this weekend. The point being that, like, I think I'm trying to be a little more selective about what I'm throwing money at and what I'm collecting, because I have so much already and I've only got so much space. That means that I've got to think about what I'm going to decide to put money towards later on this year. So I would love for somebody to tell me what these things are going to cost, so that I can plan. Like, that's my biggest reason why. And if it turns out like they're $300, then I'm going to go, okay, I got to decide whether I'm really going to do that, but.
Well, I think that's probably consideration too, is again, it's that culture shock, because Mondo has released $200 action figures in the past, but they also have $60 figures, $70 figures. And I kind of hope, when it comes to just the way the franchise has been when it comes to the collector market, I really hope that they keep closer to the $70 range, because I feel like jumping to that, I mean, I shouldn't say I feel like it is a much easier pill to swallow.
Sure.
And I think you're going to get a lot more people on board with that if you're selling an Egon, a Peter, a Winston, a Ray, all for $60-$70 a piece. Maybe do a bundle deal where you buy all 2 or all 4 or something like that. It'd be a much easier pill to swallow in the end.
Yeah, I would be okay with a price point that is analogous to the way that like NECA has offered their Ultimate series for Ninja Turtles. Where you either get them individually and they're $30 to $50, or they're you buy them in a double pack and they're $70 to $80 or whatever it is, or Super 7 has their model of Ultimates figures they do, where I think their price point is about $55 to $60 a figure, right? So I don't know if we'll get there, because Mondo is usually a little bit more high end than that, so I think they may be a little more expensive, but I'm eager about this, to see something that's a little more posable. Like, their name for them, and I think it was funny, was they didn't call them action figures. From the moment they released them, they called them fully articulated figures. So like, they can pose in lots of different ways, but they're not action. Like, they're not like, they don't have a button you can push and makes them do something. They're posable figures. And so I think that is something that I would like to see more of, is this kind of idea of lots of points of articulation, able to hold its own pose, use it for taking photos and whatnot, because it's an adult prop collectible thing, as opposed to, it's got to exist alongside the toys in the toy department, And so maybe something even a little more high end than that NECA Ultimates or Super 7 Ultimates line that you would see at a Target at retail, is kind of what I'm thinking. So maybe my sweet spot for price point might be like 75, that way you get below 100 a figure would be nice, but maybe give you something a little more high end than what you're getting from a NECA line. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think too, with Mondo, I mean, some people could be scoffing at that, but if you look at their merchandise, you look at some of their items, I mean, some of their stuff has things like alternate hands. You've got alternate faces, head sculpts for some of them. It's not just, this is the figure, you pose it, that's it. A lot of the times they allow a lot more like additional customization. So I'd be totally down for, 70, 75, somewhere around that spot. I'd be good for that.
I would be okay with that. I could live with that. And then at that point, you're talking like 150 for a double pack of figures if you were buying them, which is, to me, like not unheard of if you're buying something that high end. People will pay that much now for the double pack of like the 12-inch figures from Mattel that are not that good. Like they're good figures. I love them. I love my Mattel stuff, but like the 12-inch 1/6 line from Mattel was like, okay, it's all right. So, but you'll see them trade at that price. So I don't know. We'll see. But question for you is, are you anticipating anything else for Comic-Con? Do you think there's going to be anything else that's going to happen Ghostbusters wise at Comic-Con?
It's hard to say, brother. I did not really mean, I did not mean to do like a weird Macho Man Hulk Hogan combo there. Okay. So I don't know. I don't know. I think, again, I'm hoping that maybe we'll see something Halloween wise when it comes to Spirit Halloween. Maybe they'll have something on display there. I mean, we're kind of in that 3-month crunch time to Halloween. So maybe there'll be some reveals there. And again, that mat that got released, the rubber door mat, has kind of filled me with some excitement that maybe other stuff could be on the way. I know there was rumors that they may be having a new Slimer, or maybe the original Slimer that's coming back. They just brought back their Terror Dog earlier this year that then sold out. So maybe something from them. And you're talking about like other Halloween conventions, possibly more reveals from Trick or Treat Studios too, because that's a company that, I mean, they've shown a few things off that are really cool when it comes to masks. True. And they're doing figures, they're doing collectibles, they're even doing prop items. So they may surprise. There may be something with them too, but could come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I actually think is that who showed up randomly, or was it them or Disguise who showed up randomly at WonderCon a few months ago?
Disguise were the ones that they had the people running around in their suits and everything, like the rock outfit. They did have a presentation though. They didn't just go in guerrilla style it now. But they were there, they were planned. But yeah, they had people running around in like Garaka outfits and red jackets and everything like that. And their stuff should be shipping relatively soon. I mean, obviously, as Walmarts and Targets start to put up their Halloween section, we'll likely see that new for 2024 Frozen Empire costumes and merch start to show up probably in the next couple weeks, I would assume.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm kind of interested to see if 2 other entities attending San Diego Comic-Con are going to announce some Ghostbusters related things. One of those is Dark Horse is going to be in the exhibitor hall for sure, and attending Comic-Con. I don't know if they have a panel or an event. And to be fair, I didn't really look, but they have a table for sure and a booth. And I'm wondering if they're going to tell us more about the forthcoming Ghostbusters comics that are going to be coming following ones that we just finished up on, because we know that the June was the last issue of the 4-part miniseries for Back in Town. But we had David Boer on the podcast a while back, and he had suggested that there was more coming that had already been greenlit. And so maybe we'll find out more about new Dark Horse Ghostbusters comics would be cool. And I don't know. Do you think that's a potentiality?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's coming out this year, I mean, they could always obviously hold off till Halloween or something like that around that time more so. But if they're looking to get something out in like Q3, Q4, I mean, is there a better time to announce it than Comic-Con? I mean, that's kind of like the idea. Comic-Con, I mean, it's in the title. Now would be the time to do it. So yeah, I mean, I'd be game. I'm curious to see when it comes to the first Dark Horse series. Obviously, there was quite a bit of criticism regarding some of the art, stuff like that. So I'm kind of curious if there will be any, what kind of direction we're going to see. If it's going to continue the same, if it's going to alter any way. Yeah, I'm really curious to see, because I actually the issue 3 and 4 to me, I thought really picked up well, and I thought the story was great in it. Sure. And I thought some of the scenery too, like visually, it looked quite nice, especially in issue number 4. So I'm excited to see where that comic book or that comic series goes.
Yeah, I am too. I would like to know more about like sort of where that story is going to go, and what era is it going to cover, given that that book Back in Town sort of set up the Ghostbusters existing, again. It was kind of the interstitial tissue between Afterlife and Frozen Empire. So when you think about it, like, what does that next comic book going to cover? Is it going to be more of the time between those two movies? Or are we going to get a book now that maybe takes place post Frozen Empire with a new set of stories? Who knows? We don't really know that yet, but I hope maybe we'll find out at Comic-Con. The other folks who I'm kind of interested to see if they're going to announce anything at Comic-Con regarding Ghostbusters is Hasbro. Hasbro will be attending, has an exhibitor booth in space, and a significantly large one. They have like a booth that's like this just as big as the Star Wars booth next to them, which is kind of wild on the exhibitor floor. And so they've got a pretty established presence that's going to be happening there. They obviously have a lot to market at Comic-Con, from Transformers to G.I. Joe to all their Marvel Legends stuff. So their presence there doesn't necessarily say Ghostbusters, but I'm kind of wondering when we might hear more about a HasLab. And it was teased to us in June. It's now been, by the time we get there, over a month since then. If there's something coming out that we need to know about, maybe in October, or in the back end of the year, we might hear something about it. Maybe we'll get some teased images of it. I'm not really sure, but typically, and maybe I'm crazy about this, I don't think we ever really get the images of a HasLab until they actually go live with it, do we?
No. I mean, no. I don't. I'm trying to think if we ever really saw them beforehand. I mean, we get like that tease, and then it's like, here it is, it's available,
right.
It's out. And
we kind of already had a tease that a thing was coming, which makes me wonder, like, when are they going to decide to actually show it to us and then be like, it's now available for the next 2 to 3 months for you to back, And I think the complaint in the past from some folks has been that they dropped the last 2 HasLabs so late in the year that people were like, well, I didn't plan for this, and I have like Christmas money I got to spend on my kids and my this and my that. So from my logic, it would make some sense if they turned around at the end of July and said, hey, get on board for the HasLab. It's going to be, back it from now until October. And then,
well, but they've done it 2 times in a row now. I kind of feel at this point, fans should expect the HasLab at the end of the year. I almost feel like it's that point. That's what I'm planning for.
But
Damn
it's the price point you don't know, right? I mean, like, that's what I'm getting at, is the price point is what you end up not knowing about in terms of what you got to put aside. And that's what people complain about, is they go, I didn't know it was going to be $400 to $500.
That's every HasLab.
I think that's true of every HasLab, but you and I follow what's going on with HasLabs from campaign to campaign,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could definitely get a tease. I am curious if they may launch it a little earlier. That does make sense, especially with the fact too that they've got the O-ring figures shipping in January. So it'd be kind of weird to, like, in your HasLab immediately after have these O-ring figures when you're trying to sell those, even though you've been doing pre-orders on them for, like, at that point, 3/4 of a year. Still weird. I'm assuming we're going to see the O-ring figures in actual packaging probably at Comic-Con, but that is a nice hunch. Maybe they may do it a little earlier. I would be down for, like, again, Halloween HasLab. Be perfect time for that.
Yeah,
cool Ghostbuster thing, September, October, something along that line before Christmas. Regardless, I mean, it's safe to say that we're getting an Ecto-1 Plasma Series scaled Ecto-1, and that is something I know you joked about earlier. Things we won't buy. That's something I am going to buy, and I'm very pumped for.
Yes, that's the thing I absolutely need. It's the one thing I need more than anything else, to be quite frank at this point. I've been talking about a 1/12 scale Ecto-1 since episode 1 of the podcast and haven't shut up about it since. So I may have to buy 2, quite frankly, even though I said I was going to stop doing that, because I'm going to need one that looks like Ghostbusters. I need one that looks like Ghostbusters 2. I might need 3 because I might have to get out some rattle cans of black paint and get yourself we found it. What's the line? That's not it. That's not the line. The line is we got one. It's not we got one. It's not. It's everybody can relax.
Everyone relax. I found the car. Yeah.
It's not we got one. That would have been weird if we got one and he falls up in the car. Yeah, that would have been strange.
She pops her head on the driver's seat. We got one. He's excited.
They sent Janine to buy the car as opposed to anybody else. That would have been very interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's other folks who are going to be appearing at San Diego Comic-Con. It's kind of funny to think about it, but like Mondo is obviously owned by Funko, so they have adjacent booths on the exhibitor hall. Directly across from them is Loungefly, and then Pop has its own booth next to that. So like that sort of like almost consortium or conglomerate of different collector companies that are all in one parent organization at this point, or deeply invested in each other, are going to be essentially holding down an entire corner of the exhibitor floor. So I imagine you'll see some Ghostbuster stuff, there definitely from Mondo, but maybe we'll see some stuff from Loungefly too.
Ghost Trap, Loungefly backpacks and pop vinyls and sodas and whatever the hell Funko's making nowadays. It's all going to be there. We're probably going to get a couple fun little reveals.
Yeah. So, I mean, I got to say, I think that I'm not expecting to see a lot coming from Sony at San Diego Comic-Con. Sony has a booth at San Diego Comic-Con. It is relatively small in comparison to those around it. And it is actually like two booths over from the Pop booth. Like they're right by the Funko folks, but they're right next to the giant DC booth that's next to them. So I have a feeling that, their presence at San Diego Comic-Con might be more driven towards talking about things like Venom than it's going to be Ghostbusters projects. But we'll see. You're
all like, they're not going to have a big presence. And all of a sudden, like Eric Reich's going to take the stage. He's going to be like, ladies and gentlemen, star of Ghostbusters Acto Force on Netflix, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. That's the presentation. And they steal the whole thing. They're on CNN. It's the biggest news story. That's not going to happen. But
no, it's not. But
no,
it's not. At best, maybe we would get a reveal of animated stuff. But even that, I'm not expecting.
He's going to be in. No, that's Ecto for that. He's animated. It's going to be his voice. It's going to be fine. Still going to look like him though. He'll do the intros and outros as The Rock. Like he'll be him.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's not.
He'll just look over at DC angry, giving the people's eyebrow the whole time.
I'm hopeful that we're going to get to see some very cool stuff from Mondo for sure. And who knows? Like maybe we'll get some HasLab info. Maybe we'll find out that there is, in fact, like you're right, that there's a Loungefly Ghost Trap backpack or something along those lines. There's a Paranormal Research Center themed lunchbox. I don't know. Well, regardless of what we find out at San Diego Comic-Con, I think we've still living in a pretty exciting time for Ghostbusters fans, and there's a lot to be seen and a lot to be found out, a lot coming down the pike. So stay tuned to find out more as we do from San Diego Comic-Con, folks. Jason, is there anything else that you want to talk about this week or anything else coming up down the pike that you think people should know about?
I mean, obviously, just like you covered here, we're going to be covering all the stories, all the news as it happens from San Diego Comic-Con over on GhostbustersNews.com. Also, our YouTube channel, all of our socials. And in speaking with our YouTube channel, the day this drops, you may want to head over there. I don't know. Sometime, there's sometimes I try and plan things to release on time. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But we've got a pretty big reveal that's in the works, a new product launch, a product pre-order launch, I should say, that I got hands-on with. And we're going to show it off to you. It's a rather animated, I'll say animated, prop decor item that would look great at any Halloween party or on the 12th floor of the Sedgwick Hotel. So I'll leave you with that tease. And again, be sure to check out GhostbustersNews.com and our YouTube channel because, it's a fun one.
I think that since you said animated, clearly what you're talking about is the life-size boogeyman that's being produced by the folks over at the now defunct Rubies.
That's not happening whatsoever. Now you're no. Ladies and gentlemen, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. That's it. He's my animated host. He would look great at a Halloween party or the 12th floor of the Sedgwick.
Look, I think that what you've convinced me across this episode, if nothing else, we've had a really great time talking. By the end of this episode, I think that you have convinced me that your Christmas gift this year needs to be a commissioned artwork that is the imagined poster for Ghostbusters Ecto 4 starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
I'd be down for that. I'd be down. I mean, that was what years
27
ago.
by 40.
Years ago, that was one of our April Fool's Day jokes, was that, hey, Ghostbusters is getting a Netflix series. Guess what? The next year, it happened. The only missing piece of that puzzle in that joke was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
If we get him, we got it, great. Print money.
To be fair, from what I hear lately about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and being on sets, I think that if we had him involved, that it might take them several years to produce a single series. delays. Since he apparently has some problems with onset delays and showing up late to work by many, many hours.
I mean, the man wrestled in the main event of night 1 at WrestleMania this year. I can totally forgive any tardiness on set when you're tagging up with Roman Reigns and guys like that. Let me tell you, okay? I will not have any of this Dwayne Johnson slander on this show.
I'm just thinking that you really want this to happen because you want a reason to write the phrase paranormal pile driver into articles.
Oh man, that'd be so good. Imagine in a video game, they would have an unlockable Dwayne Johnson Ghostbuster outfit. I mean, they already have Hulk, like the wrestling mobile game has Stay Puft and like Ghostbusters in flight suits. We can get like Dwayne Johnson, like he can be the cover athlete in 2K25, and the DLC would be a Proton Pack skin.
Yeah. Well, I will keep my eyes open for that for sure. I'm gonna keep jockeying for that for the future. That's a treatment you and I should write now. We should submit it to Ghost Corps, and we've
totally lost the plot. Guys, check out GhostbustersNews.com. I got a video that's very animated up. It doesn't involve Dwayne Johnson. Just check it out. It should be up there today, if not tomorrow. If not, I'm sorry.
Okay, people definitely should do that, and then you and I absolutely should write the treatment for Ghostbusters Ecto 4 starring Dwayne Johnson, and then we should send it to Eric Reich just to see what he does with it.
If he smells what we're cooking.
Oh!
Whoa!
Yeah, he's going to put that right into the people's trash.
he's gonna shine it up nice. Turn that sumbitch sideways. Stick it straight in the people's trash.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, I want to say thank you for coming on the show and offering up your insights this week about San Diego Comic-Con, about the news that's out there, and of course, I want to encourage people to go over to Ghostbusters News and check out the YouTube channel for things that you may be posting that may be animated. So go check that out if you want, folks. I might know something about that, and I might think it's pretty cool, so you should go check it out. Beyond that, I need to wrap up the episode because you and I have done this as co-hosts together, and this is usually the part where I would be like, thanks for coming out, Jason, and then transition to some musicals thing, but instead it's happening right now as we do it. So I need to say not only thank you to you for coming on the show and being awesome, but, and offer you one final chance to say anything you want to people.
If you smell!
Wait, you're just going to leave that there? You're not going to finish it?
Yeah, if Ray Parker Jr. has taught us anything, it's never finish the catchphrase or then you owe royalties. So no, we just end it there.
Okay. Well, folks, you heard it here. If you smell, then you should go check out GhostbustersNews.com and see what Jason's offering up later on this week. I think that's what you were trying to say, right?
Cooking.
Oh, boy. Well, Jason, I need to say one final thank you to you for coming on the show this week. I appreciate you providing your insights, being part of what's going on with Extraplasm regularly, and I appreciate the fun that you bring to the show regularly. Folks, if you are not going to Ghostbusters News, whether you do or whether you don't smell, you absolutely should be going to Ghostbusters News on a regular basis and checking out what Jason puts out for there on his website as well as on YouTube. So many good reviews, so many fun videos. Go check it out. Beyond that, I need to say thank you to Brendan Pearce of Badoochi Studios, who provides our logo and the visual identity for the podcast, as well as Vaporwave artist MAGNAVOX, whose version of Ghostbusters serves as our theme song each week. And finally, I need to say thank you to you for listening, for coming out and checking out another episode of Extraplasm. We're almost at episode 92. We're probably going to celebrate the year a little after 92, to be honest, but it's kind of crazy to think about it. I said that episode 46 was the episode where people find their voice according to Ghostbusters Afterlife, and here we are approaching double that number. Whether or not that means we found more of our voice or not, I don't know, but I am happy to have found more of you who listen each week. If you want to be in touch with the podcast, by all means, reach out via extraplasompodcast@gmail.com, Extraplasm on X and Instagram, or Extraplasm Podcast on Facebook. Be happy, be well, be healthy, and as Ernie Hudson says every single week,
try to have fun, and always keep on busting. Take care.